Hi there, this is another look at some sorting algorithms, or one sorting algorithm in particular, and this is going to concentrate on the quicksort. Now, we already looked at bubble sorts and shuttle sorts in year 12, so this is like an example which I always say for year 13. So if I would just have a look at this now and see how we get on. So first of all, with the quicksort, now there's different versions. Be warned, there are different versions. So what this essentially means is that if you do AQA or Edexcel, you might find that this is different in yours. So for instance, the Edexcel, which I presently teach, uses the pivot of, and we'll come to what the pivot is in a bit, but they use the pivot to be the middle item in a list. Whereas OCR, particularly OCR A, which is what this is aimed at, uses the first item on the list. So I suppose what I could do is I could make up an example here. And if you have these numbers, 15, 12, 9, 18, and 6. Say these were my numbers. Now with Edexcel, I'd be using this 9 as my pivot. But with OCR, I use this one. And this one is usually given actually, usually put a circle around it. And that now is my pivot. And what that essentially means is that I look to see if numbers are bigger or smaller than that 15. In this case, 15, I'll look at that 15 and I think, well, I've got 12, 9, and 6 all small on there. And so what you tend to do, you go 12, 9, 6. There's my pivot. I've used it now, so it's 15, and I had one number bigger than it, so that's 18. Obviously, I'm trying to put these into ascending order or increasing order, and you need to read that because sometimes you don't. And then you go basically do this again and again and again until you've got all your numbers in the right order. I might as well carry on. There's only 5 numbers; it's not going to take long. Now, I've got what this is now called a sublist, and this sublist, let's just highlight this as in terms of get another color on my pen. So if I just kind of highlight that as one sublist, and that's a second sublist. Now weirdly, that's a sublist of one item, but we still consider it to be a sublist. Now for each sublist, we then again take the first item. Again, you take the first item in the list to be the pivot. So here I'm taking 12 to be my pivot, and here I'm taking 18 to be my pivot. It seems to be ridiculous, but there you go. I've only got one item, it's bound to be in the right order. But from this 12, 9, and 6, I now look for numbers that are smaller than it. And you'll notice 9 and 6 are smaller than it. So there you go there. That was my pivot. Now that's definitely in the right place now. They've got the 15 being done, the 18 has been done. And you keep doing this until you eventually run out of pivots. Now I've got a sublist here. I take the first item, which is now 9. 9 is in the wrong order. The 6 goes a bit in front of it, but the 9 has now been used. You can see the 12, the 15, and the 18. And I suppose what we could do is over here, we just write pivots. And first one was 15. Second one we had 12 and 18. It's just make sure no one docks you any marks. This one was just the 9. And now we're going to just do that 6. And I suppose now I know these are in the right order. 6, 9, 12. Notice the use of the square notation almost to say, yeah, I've used that as a pivot. So now you could, I suppose you could say, look, they're all pivots have been used, all numbers have been used as pivots. So now in the correct order. Now in the correct order. Something like that, just to finish off your question, to make sure that everyone's clear that you've done it correctly. Okay, so that's my very badly made up example. So let's have a look at some proper examples. Now, this is from the OCR textbook which I was using. So let's have a look at this. So we are going to use the quicksort. Now remember, this will be my pivot. So over here, I'm just going to write here, my pivot, first time round is going to be 9. And basically from there, you look at your numbers, which ones are, we want it in numerical order. So I suppose that's another way to say increasing order. So my 5 is in front of it, my 2 is in front of it, going across, my 7 is in front of it. No, it's not changing this order. 4 is in front of it. But all the others are bigger than it. So I now put my 9. My 9 is now in the correct position. What numbers come after? 15 does, 10 does, 12 and 19. And essentially I've got 2 sublists. So I look at this and I go, okay, what pivots am I going to use? And my pivots will be the first ones of each list. So it's going to be 5 and 15. These are called sublists. So my 5, again, you go 2, 4. There's my 5. Now it's with a square around it to highlight that it's being used. And what's left? 7's left. Now I've got a 9 here, which has already been used. Now my 15, what goes in front of my 15? Well, presumably my 10 does, my 12 does. 15 now is used, and my 19 is there. And what pivots do they use? Just to complete this 5 and 15. Now I'm going to use probably a few pivots here because there's quite a few little sublists now. I've got the 2 for this 2 to 4. I've got the 7. I've got the 10. And I've got the 19. So let's just list these. I've got 2, 5, 10, and 19. Now let's go back to each of those. Now 2, 2 to 4. 2 is in the right place. I like that. And the 4, you can tell here, is going to just stay there. The 5 has already been done. The 7, the 9. Oh, no, the 7 was on its own, wasn't it? So the 7 is now in the right place. That's right. Did I miss that from my list here? 2, 5. No, it wasn't a 5. That's where I went wrong. 5 already been. It was the 2, 7. No wonder I got a little bit confused. So anyway, the 7's in the right place. The 9's already done. My next one, there was the 10. 10 and 12. 10's in the right place, and the 12's going to go there. 15 was in the right place already, and now my 19's in the right place. And it does actually tell me this. I should have really have set this up with a pass 4. I'm going to do it now. I didn't know I needed it. There you go, pass 4. Now here I'm going to have 2 is already there. The 4 will be my pivot there, and my 12 will be my pivot. So I should perhaps write over here pivots. What was that? 4, 12. So 2's in the right place, 4's now in the right place. You can see all of these will now be in the right place. There's the 10. The 12 is now permanent. 15, 19. There you'll notice all the pivots have been used. All numbers used as pivots. Therefore, list incorrect order. Now I think that's pretty much done. And needed a pass 4, but other than that, that was fine. So we'll look at this one. This is it's a longer list of numbers, but we do the same thing. So what we're going, I'm going to write them out in the right places first of all. 21, 24. I'm looking again. It says this time ascending order. 42. Be careful when you write these. It's very easy to put the wrong number, and then everything from that point on is scuppered, and you're going to get very few marks indeed. So just quick check. 21, 24, 42, 29, 23, 13, 8, 13. I think I've got them right. So my first pivot is going to be my 21. So just right over here, pivot is the 21. Now, numbers in front of 24, we're in ascending order, little check there, notice that. 23, 13 is before it. 8 is before it. Is that the only ones? 13 and 8. Oh no, we've got 18 as well. And then I've got the 21, which is now square. And what have I got after it? 24, 42, 29, 23, 13, 8 and 39, and the 18 went over there. That's good. So you can see now I've got two sublists, and those two sublists are going to give me a pivot on 13 and a pivot on 24. For OCR, we always just do the first term in the list, 13, 24. Now, what ones are before the 13? Well, I've got the 8 is, the 13 goes permanent, and the 18 is there. 21 is already done. 24, what numbers have I got? I've got the 23 that goes before it, and the 24, big box, 42. Notice these numbers just stay the same order. Okay, good. We're going to have to pivot again. Where are we going to pivot? Well, we're going to pivot on that 8. We're going to pivot on that 18. These little one item lists or sublists are a bit silly in many respects, but this is what you do. 23, and then the 42 is going to be our final pivot. We've got 4 pivots to do, but as you quickly realize, this just becomes, 8 is in the right order, 13 is in the right order, 18 becomes permanent, 21 was already done. All right, now I've got something to do. 23, oh no, it's still just 23, and still just 24. Because 23 was just a sublist of 1. Now, this is the bit, I've got a bit of work to do. 29 goes before it, 39 goes before it, and 42 goes there. And that is now done. Pivot is just the 29. Everything else is just done. So circle around that to highlight that. And now I've got 8, 13, 18, 21. Eventually I've written them all out. Now what am I doing here? 29 is before the 39, so that's good. 39 still not done. I've still got to do another one. 42. I suppose it's not the hardest thing in the world. I always think like that. When you get an easy topic, you think, yeah, but it could be really hard. And this isn't really hard. This is just a bit laborious. It just takes a bit of time to write everything out to make sure you don't lose marks because you didn't show every part of your working out. Okay. And eventually we got 39. Now 39 was the pivot. It has become the permanent value there. And again, we have used all the values as pivots. All values used as pivots. Therefore, the list now incorrect order. I suppose it assumes we've done it right. But it's quite a nice little topic, as you can see. I've got one more example, but this one is in descending order. Now, this causes more problems than you'd probably imagine. So I'm just going to, again, try and line them up so that I don't make any dark mistakes. I'm just writing them into my list. I think I've done that right, but again, I'm just going to check because it's not worth losing loads of marks just because in the exam you were too rushed. I think I've got them in the right order. Look, there's my long list. My 37 is going to be used for my pivot. So I'm just going to write that here, make it very clear that that's my pivot. So what numbers go before it? Well, the 20 goes before it, the 17 goes before it, 26 does. Just keep them going because I've got some that aren't. 27 does, 28 does, and also that 17 does at the end. So then I get my 37, which becomes permanent. What numbers did I miss out? 44, 41, squeezes in, and then the 50. Okay, so I've now got two sublists. I'll therefore have two pivots. My pivots are 20, right at the front, and 44. Okay, let's look at my first sublist. So I've got 17 in front of it, and another 17, but that's actually it, I think. Then I've got my 20. What have I got there? I've got 26, 27, and 28. I've got a 37, which is already done, and 41 goes before it. 44 now becomes a square on this notation, and there's my 50 at the end. Okay, what pivots do I need this time? Well, I'll need a 17 there. I'll need a 26. I'll need that 41, and I'll also need the 50. So let's just list them here. 17 I said, 26 I said, 41 I said, and 50. And for each of these pivots, I just now see if they're high or low. There's very few terms in this one. 17 is obviously in the right place. I haven't had to swap that. So I've still got the 17 in that list. 20 was already there. Now on this list, what have I got? They're actually in the right order. You can see they're right away. So therefore 26 is definitely in the right place. Still got 27 and 28 to the right of it. I've got 37. I've got 41 on its own, so that's now in the right place. 44 was already done. And 50 is now in the right place. And I suppose I've got these two sublists left. So I've got a 17 as a pivot here. And I've got a 27. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's just go through this. It's a bit tedious, as I say, at some points here. So they are now all right. The 17 has gone right. The 27 is in the right place, in the right order. So I can just put that there. 28 stays on its right-hand side. And then these are already done already, weren't they? But it does imply that I'm going to have to do this one more time. As tedious as it is, if you take easy marks, be grateful for them. Pivot now is just the 28, which is that one, and I'd be able to get away without writing all these squares and stuff now. Because I'm going to write that little sentence I like to write just to finish this off. Which basically say all values used as pivots so list is in the correct order. I don't imagine you always need it. That's one of the things you look at the exam board mark schemes for, just see exactly what they wanted that year. But one year they might, so who knows. So anyway, next, look, a couple of notes. So first of all, the number of swaps and comparisons between these different algorithms is always key, and sometimes some are better than others. And the order of an algorithm is described in a variety of ways. Now this is the O method, or the big O method that they're using here, and my pen's disappeared on me. Where's my pen gone? Bear with me. Oh, I found it. And so this then, the bubble and shuttle sorts are of order n squared. Now that basically means they're of quadratic order. Now a quicksort, in its worst case scenario, if everything is wrong, in the wrong places if you like, is still only of quadratic order. So it is never going to be of worse efficiency than a bubble and shuttle sort, or said it a different way, we're expecting a quicksort to be better. On average, it's n log n. Now this is something which we don't really need to know much about, but other than the fact that this is better than this, I've written this down here. Now this is the posh way of writing it. Since note that since this order of n log n is contained within the order of n squared, is, in other words, this is basically the best one, more efficient. This means that quicksorts will tend to be quicker than bubble sorts or shuttle sorts, and given the choice, you would use those. So this is an exam question that, it's actually passed for an exam question that came up in 2019. It strikes me as quite straightforward. There's only 5 numbers. It was only 4 marks, but there was a couple of extra bits, and one of which I've included here. So demonstrate how quicksorts can be used to put these in increasing orders. Usually indicates the pivots used and which values are already known to be in their correct position. Kind of what the squares and the circles are meant to be used for. So I suppose I might need to just make it a bit more obvious. Let's put these numbers down. 41, 17. I didn't draw these boxes deliberately to the right size, so that's it, done. And my pivot is going to be my first item, the 41. So I'm going to write over here, pivot is 41. Now that means numbers lower than it, 17, 8, all of them, 33 and 29, and 41 is now in the right place. Okay, now I can pivot again. Pivot on the first term. The first term is now 17. So I write that here. And now I've got what number? Oh, I've got the 8 in front of it. The 17 is now correct. I've got 33, 29, and 41. So, and 41's got the box around it because I've already used it. Pivot is now going to be the 8 from the first sublist and 33 from the second sublist. And I suppose when I'm doing this, I'm going to get 8 now in the right place. I'm going to get 17 in the right place. 33's got a swap. 29. 33 is now in the right place. And 41. And finally, I'm going to pivot on the 29. And this time I'm going to put boxes around it. One, because there's only 5 of them to do. But also, if you remember the question said, make sure you do show what is what. So I'm going to go back and just read what that said. I think that's done now. It said, you should indicate the pivots used, yes, and values which are already known to be in their correct position. So why don't I just write over here, values in correct position. I don't want to lose any marks because correct position. Shall I just write marked with a square? There we go. So I know 41's in the right position, etc., etc. Now, what else did it say? Let's just go back. It says, for the average case, or it tells me what I already told you just now, the case of efficiency of a quicksort is of order n log n. Explain why quicksort is typically quicker than bubble sort. Now, that's basically what I went through just now, isn't it? So I can say that the order of n log n is contained within the order of n squared. Therefore, quicksorts will typically be quicker. Typically, just make sure. I thought I was going to spell it wrong then, but then I wasn't. Typically quicker than bubble stroke shuttle. Bubble stroke shuttle. I think that's basically the end of that question, whether I've shown you anyway. There was a little bit more. You can welcome to go back and have a look at that actual question. Look, this is exercise 3C. This comes from the Discrete textbook from the OCR. Again, I'm not actually teaching this now, but if you've got that or some other book, just make sure that you're looking at an OCR book and make sure that it pivots on that first term, not the middle term. As I said, Edexcel and probably AQA as well may well do different things. So anyway, thank you very much, and good luck in your exams.